An airport police dog persistently alerted to an abandoned bag. Could it potentially contain explosives? Hesitantly, security personnel opened the bag, and the contents necessitated an immediate evacuation. Here's the full story. Before we proceed, please share in the comments below where you're watching from. And if you enjoy compelling police dog stories such as this one, remember to subscribe to stay updated on future content. A sterile glow from the fluorescent lights of Terminal 5 at O'Hare International Airport illuminated the polished floors as travelers rushed by, pulling rolling suitcases and carry-ons. A continuous hum of activity filled the air, punctuated by announcements over the PA system and conversations in a mix of languages. It was just past 7 a.m. as the morning international arrivals began to arrive, bringing the usual atmosphere that Officer Benjamin Linus knew from his 6 years with the airport's K-9 unit. Benjamin straightened his dark blue uniform jacket, his badge reflecting the overhead light as he observed the increasing crowd. Beside him, Lexus, his Dutch Shepherd partner for 4 years, stayed in perfect heel position, his dark eyes carefully examining the constant flow of passengers. "Another day in paradise, huh, boy?" Benjamin murmured, briefly scratching behind Lexus's alert ears. The shepherd leaned into his touch before returning to his vigilant posture. "Morning, Linus," Officer Teresa Wong called from her post near customs. "Lexus looking sharp today." Benjamin nodded in greeting. "Just finished training recertification yesterday. Passed with flying colors." As usual, Security Director Melissa Harrington's voice crackled through Benjamin's radio. "Attention all units. We are experiencing increased passenger volume in Terminal 5 today because of rerouted flights from Milwaukee. Please maintain a visible presence near checkpoints." "Copy that," Benjamin responded, already adjusting their patrol route mentally. K-9 Unit 7 will cover the east side checkpoints. Just another day at O'Hare, he thought. Routine, predictable, secure. As they turned the corner towards the less crowded international departures area, Benjamin noticed a subtle shift in the tension of Lexus's leash, the first sign that this day would be anything but ordinary. The change in Lexus's behavior was slight but unmistakable, a sudden, focused alertness that altered his usual patrol posture into something more intense. The shepherd's ears moved forward, his tail straightened, and his nose began working more intensely, taking in the air with increased urgency. "What is it, boy?" Benjamin asked softly, immediately noticing his partner's change in behavior. Lexus pulled gently on his lead, guiding Benjamin towards the eastern wing of the International Departures Terminal, a section currently undergoing renovation and less crowded than the main concourse. Early morning light poured in through large windows, revealing dust motes suspended in the air above the section with restricted seating. Benjamin surveyed the area, trying to understand what had caught Lexus's attention. The space was largely unoccupied, with only a handful of passengers asleep in chairs or absorbed in their electronics. Initially, nothing seemed out of place, but then Lexus abruptly moved towards a row of seats along the wall, his focus fixed on something located underneath them. The item was a bag, a medium-sized black duffel with no visible identification tag. It was positioned perfectly centered under the middle seat, partially hidden from a quick glance, but fully visible from their present viewpoint. Benjamin's training engaged instantly. "Secure," he instructed, and Lexus remained perfectly still, keeping his attention on the bag. However, something seemed unusual about Lexus's behavior. During training for explosive or narcotic detection, Lexus exhibited distinct alert behaviors, a passive sit for explosives and active pawing for narcotics. This was an anomaly. The dog's body was stiff with tension, and a low, sustained growl emanated from his throat, a sound Benjamin had seldom heard from his usually calm partner. "Lexus, check," Benjamin instructed, initiating the inspection signal. Rather than approaching the bag and indicating as he had been trained to do, Lexus retreated several steps. His growl deepened. His tail was now completely straight, hackles slightly raised, a posture unlike his usual alert stance. A passing custodian noticed them and began to approach. Benjamin raised his hand, stopping the man. "Sir, please step back," he ordered calmly but firmly. As if reacting to the newcomer, Lexus suddenly emitted 3 sharp, staccato barks, a sound so unlike his usual alerting behavior that it sent a chill down Benjamin's spine. Maintaining focus on the bag, Benjamin activated his radio. Control, this is K9 Unit 7 at Terminal 5, East Wing, Section C. I have an unattended bag exhibiting atypical K9 alert behavior. I request backup and implementation of area evacuation protocol. The dispatcher replied, copy that, K9 Unit 7 security personnel are on their way. Commence standard abandoned bag protocol. Benjamin then began clearing the surrounding area, speaking with a firm but controlled tone to avoid causing alarm. Esteemed guests, please gather your possessions and proceed calmly to the main concourse. Security personnel will guide you from that location. As the last non-employees left the area, a security team arrived, led by Lieutenant Jack Cassidy, the airport's senior security officer. His characteristic worried expression intensified as he evaluated the scene. What's the situation, Linus? Cassidy inquired, gesturing towards the bag. Unattended bag, sir. No discernible markings, placed intentionally beneath the chairs. Cassidy's gaze moved to Lexus, who stayed focused on the target, their body rigid. Your dog providing an unexpected alert? Benjamin responded, worry clear in his tone. This isn't his standard explosive alert, nor is it a narcotics detection. I'm not familiar with him behaving in this manner. Cassidy's face grew stern. Unfamiliar with this reaction? What is the significance of that? He should be alerting or he shouldn't be. A second security team arrived, bringing their usual detection tools. The lead technician, Raj Patel, started preparing a portable X-ray machine, observing Lexus with a professional gaze. Let's examine what's inside before we decide anything, Cassidy instructed. Sir, Benjamin insisted. I've been working with Lexus for 4 years. When he behaves like this, there's a valid explanation. As evacuation procedures began, Benjamin's thoughts returned to the day he first encountered Lexus, 3 years prior to their formal partnership. The recollection was clear. A scorching July afternoon at the Homeland Security Training Facility in Virginia, when Benjamin was attending specialized K9 handler training. This one's different, Trainer Martinez stated, guiding Benjamin toward an isolated kennel separate from the other training dogs. A Dutch Shepherd, roughly 2 years old, was discovered during a raid on a trafficking operation near the Mexican border. Benjamin had looked into the kennel, anticipating an aggressive or distressed animal. However, he encountered an intensely focused gaze from a slender, muscular shepherd with distinctive amber eyes. Unlike many rescued dogs, the dog did not bark or pace. He remained perfectly still, evaluating Benjamin with a nearly human intelligence. What is his history? Benjamin asked, maintaining eye contact with the extraordinary animal. Martinez referred to his clipboard. We're not entirely sure, he stated. The operation involved smuggling both drugs and people. This dog was discovered guarding a container holding children inside. He did not attack the rescue team, did not attempt to flee, but instead protected the kids. The strangest thing I've ever seen, Martinez commented. He's failed traditional explosive detection programming, Martinez clarified. Not because he lacks the ability to detect. His scent detection abilities are exceptional, yet he repeatedly signals to things we haven't intentionally introduced. We initially dismissed these as false positives. Benjamin inquired when Martinez paused. 3 times now, he's alerted on items or locations where we discovered nothing. Each instance, we submitted the indicated items for comprehensive analysis. On each occasion, further investigation revealed something previously undetected. Chemical precursors, residues, compounds our routine tests failed to identify. It was as if he perceived the world on a different sensory plane than our other dogs. Benjamin returned to the current reality as Patel's voice cut through his memories. The initial scan revealed standard items, clothing, toiletries, and what appeared to be documentation. No explosive compounds were found, nor any unusual wiring or devices. Cassidy directed a significant look toward Benjamin. There you have it. With due respect, sir, Patel added, there's a peculiarity concerning the interior lining. Observe this density variation. The bag appeared to have a subtly altered compartment. It was barely noticeable, but clearly not a result of standard manufacturing. Benjamin felt a sudden feeling of unease as he noticed Lexus looking at him, seemingly confirming his suspicions. "Lieutenant," he said softly, "I believe we must treat this with utmost seriousness. Lexus has identified something that our usual protocols aren't addressing." Cassidy finally gave the order, "Call the bomb squad. Implement full evacuation protocol, establishing a 100-foot perimeter." "Linus, I expect your dog to be correct about this." The bomb squad technicians advanced with methodical precision, their bulky protective suits making them appear almost robotic as they neared the abandoned bag. Benjamin and Lexus had been moved back to the perimeter line, where they maintained visual contact with the operation. "Remote assessment first," announced Garcia, the bomb tech lead, as his team deployed a small rover equipped with additional sensing equipment. Cassidy stood beside Benjamin, his posture betraying the palpable tension. "O'Hare deals with more than 2,500 lost items annually," he said. 99% are simply forgotten laptops and water bottles." He shook his head. "We're closing down half a terminal because of a dog's unusual actions." The rover approached the bag, and Garcia directed its unique sensors from a distance. Following several anxious minutes, his voice came over the radio. "No explosive compounds found, no radiation, no known biological agents detected." Shifting to a physical examination, Garcia proceeded, personally inspecting the bag with a specialized camera. Another individual arrived at the edge of the area, a woman wearing a fitted charcoal suit, her Homeland Security identification clearly visible. Agent Diana Walsh introduced herself briefly, asking about the circumstances. "Likely a false alarm," Cassidy replied, before Benjamin could respond. "Typical abandoned bag. No explosives have been found. We anticipate resuming operations soon." Walsh's keen gaze shifted from the surroundings to Lexus, who was now looking straight at her, his stance still tense and focused. "That your dog, officer?" "Linus. Benjamin Linus. And yes, this is Lexus," she stated, rather than asked, which surprised Benjamin. "I read the file. His alert behavior is unusual?" "Very," Benjamin confirmed. "I've never seen him react this way before." Walsh examined Lexus with heightened interest. "What exactly is different about his behavior?" "He is maintaining distance while remaining focused. Normally, he approaches detection targets directly. And these vocalizations?" As if on cue, Lexus let out another series of short, sharp barks. "They're not part of his training." Over the radio, Garcia's voice interrupted their conversation. "Physical inspection reveals no traditional threat devices. However, there's definitely a concealed compartment in the lining. Very sophisticated work, not visible to the naked eye." Walsh's face grew serious. "Don't open that compartment," she instructed firmly into her own radio. "Excuse me?" Cassidy questioned. "This is airport jurisdiction." "Not anymore," Walsh replied, showing her credentials more clearly. "That bag corresponds to a profile we're monitoring." "Officer Linus, how is your dog reacting? Is he retreating while still attentive?" Benjamin responded, seemingly taken aback. "That's precisely what's happening." Instead of explaining, Walsh quickly spoke into her radio. "Agent Walsh is requesting immediate hazmat support at O'Hare Terminal 5, East Wing. A potential CBR material is suspected. Priority code Alpha. Our sensors detect known threats," Walsh replied grimly to Cassidy's protest. "We've been tracking a new synthetic compound that evades standard detection. There have been 3 incidents in the past month: Dallas, Miami, and Phoenix. The only consistent detection has been unusual behavior from certain K-9 units. Specifically, alert without approach." Benjamin experienced a chilling realization. He was sensing something hazardous, though unfamiliar from his training. Therefore, he maintained a safe distance while staying vigilant. "Indeed," Walsh affirmed, "and should it prove to be what we suspect, your dog may have potentially saved hundreds of lives." The operations manager's face reddened significantly when Walsh requested a complete evacuation of the terminal. "Do you comprehend the implications of this request? This situation involves potentially disrupting travel for thousands of people and causing millions in lost revenue." "I understand perfectly," Walsh stated, her voice steady but with an unmistakable firmness. "And I'm not requesting it." Following a moment of heightened tension, Cassidy's radio crackled with a transmission from the airport director himself. After a short discussion, he addressed the group, his face serious. "The director has approved the full evacuation protocol for Terminal 5. We are initiating it now." With the evacuation announcement echoing through the terminal, Benjamin experienced a brief sense of relief, which was swiftly overtaken by a fresh worry. "If this is what you suspect, Agent Walsh," he thought, already observing the escalating disarray of the evacuation, "then whoever placed this bag here is probably still in the airport. And now we're setting everyone in motion, making them more difficult to track." Benjamin stated, his mind racing through the possibilities. "We need to find them before they realize we've discovered the bag. Lexus can help. If he detected whatever's in that bag, he might be able to track the person who handled it." Agent Harlow from the CBR response unit arrived and quickly coordinated with the hazmat team. Benjamin knelt beside Lexus, speaking in a low, steady tone. "We need to find who left this boy. Can you do that? Can you find them?" Lexus's intelligent eyes focused on Benjamin's face, a gentle whine escaping his throat, demonstrating understanding yet conveying worry. "I know it's dangerous," Benjamin said quietly. "We'll be cautious. But we need to find them." The hazmat team arrived, fully equipped in protective gear, their presence forming a strange, isolated zone of intense action within the now unsettlingly vacant terminal. Benjamin and Lexus stayed at the designated perimeter, observing as the specialists cautiously neared the bag. "Remote extraction first," the hazmat lead stated, deploying a specialized robot intended to manage potentially hazardous materials. While maintaining a negative pressure environment during the transfer, Harlow approached, holding a tablet displaying security footage. "We've got partial facial recognition from cameras near where the bag was placed. The individual is a male, approximately 30 to 35 years old. He is Caucasian and traveling alone. He entered through the north entrance at 6:14 a.m. He was carrying a bag. That was nearly 2 hours ago," Benjamin noted with concern, suggesting he could be long gone. Harlow countered, swiping to another image, stating he was last seen entering a restroom near Gate E9 20 minutes ago and has not emerged yet. Meanwhile, the hazmat team successfully accessed the concealed compartment within a specialized containment unit. The hazmat lead's voice crackled over the radio. Professional detachment briefly faltered. "This isn't just a chemical agent," he stated. "There's sophisticated delivery equipment in here. A timer, atomizer, distribution system, and documentation. A lot of it." The hazmat lead continued, his voice returning to its professional calm. "The dispersal mechanism was set for noon, 4 hours from now, when the terminal would be at peak capacity. Travel documents, multiple identities, and maps. Terminal layouts for O'Hare, Atlanta Hartsfield, LAX. This indicated a broader operation." A hazmat technician meticulously removed what seemed to be a small notebook, securing it in a transparent evidence bag, and subjecting it to a decontamination procedure before it was given to Harlow. "It's a manifesto," Harlow stated grimly as he examined the pages. "Concerning rhetoric, including expressions of extreme opposition to immigration and allusions to restricting international travel, has emerged. This indicated a planned terrorist attack with the intent to target foreign nationals at several airports. The hazmat team has identified the chemical compound involved. It is a synthesized neurological agent, non-lethal upon contact, but intended to induce panic, disorientation, and respiratory distress within a densely populated airport environment, potentially leading to widespread panic and chaotic trampling." Benjamin completed his thought. "Standard sensors wouldn't identify it, as it's designed to stay inactive until scattered." Harlow gave Benjamin a hotel key, which was located in an outer pocket of the bag and is now secured in an evidence bag. "It should be safe for your dog to analyze the scent from the bag without physical contact." "Lexus, scent," Benjamin instructed, holding the sealed bag close to the shepherd's nose without opening it. Lexus inhaled deeply, then looked at Benjamin, attentive and prepared. "Locate him." Benjamin gave the signal, and they proceeded into the terminal's interior, where their suspect might still be concealed. Lexus advanced with focused determination through the evacuated terminal, his nose working constantly as he followed the scent from the hotel key card. Benjamin kept a steady tension on the lead, allowing his partner sufficient freedom to work while remaining connected to his movements. Agent Walsh and 2 airport security officers trailed behind, maintaining a distance to avoid disrupting the scent tracking. The deserted terminal, usually filled with activity, provided a disturbing scene for their pursuit. Coffee cups remained warm on the tables. Breakfast sandwiches were left unfinished. Newspapers drifted in the air conditioning, which continued to operate despite the evacuation. As they headed toward Concourse E, Benjamin spoke softly into his radio, while Lexus guided them past closed duty-free shops and empty waiting areas. Lexus abruptly stopped at a junction of corridors, his sense of smell working intensely as he appeared to evaluate different scent paths. Following a brief pause, he turned purposefully toward a service corridor labeled Authorized Personnel Only. "He is entering the restricted area," Benjamin confirmed into his radio. "Request backup at Service Corridor E42. The door to the service area was slightly ajar, a further cause for concern, as these doors were mandated to remain secured at all times. Lexus's pace increased, his body language indicating a closer approach to their target. The narrow corridor opened into a more spacious back-of-house area where airport operations handled luggage, supplies, and equipment. Lexus paused once more, moving around a section close to a staff break room before returning towards a door labeled Electrical Access. His actions changed slightly, his ears perked, his posture suggesting he's found their target. Through the little, wire-reinforced window, Benjamin could see activity inside, someone quickly collecting things from a backpack. Subject identified, Benjamin spoke into his radio. Male matches description, seems to be getting ready for something. Request immediate tactical response. Lexus emitted a warning bark. The suspect had observed their presence through the window. Immediately, the man inside began moving, displaying frantic energy, retrieving something from his pack. "No time," Benjamin responded urgently. "Subject is actively handling unknown materials. We're moving in now." With practiced coordination, Benjamin and the security team positioned themselves at the door while Walsh covered their flank. With Benjamin's approval, an officer opened the door, and they entered quickly. "Airport police, Homeland Security, hands where we can see them," Walsh ordered, raising her weapon. The suspect, a thin man with close-cropped hair and pale eyes, paused briefly, his hands near what looked like another modified bag resembling the one they had discovered. He then moved swiftly, lunging for a small canister on the workbench. "Another device," Benjamin cautioned, issuing a command at the same time. "Lexus, stop." The Dutch Shepherd surged ahead with intense focus, expertly trained to neutralize dangers without causing serious harm. He intercepted the suspect's arm just as he attempted to reach the canister, using a controlled pressure with his jaw that made the man cry out and fall backward. "Don't move," Walsh instructed as Benjamin secured Lexus, and the security officers moved in to restrain the suspect. A brief examination of the room exposed the troubling extent of the operation, including another partially assembled dispersal device, additional documentation, and what seemed to be communication equipment. The suspect remained handcuffed to a chair in the airport security office, his gaunt face set in a look of scornful silence as Agent Harlow and a recently arrived FBI agent prepared for questioning. "His name is Ethan Mercer," Walsh told Benjamin, reading from a preliminary report on her tablet. "A former chemical engineering student who left school 3 years ago had been flagged for extremist online activity on several watch lists. However, no action was deemed necessary until now." Through the speaker, they could hear Harlow starting the interrogation, using a methodical and controlled approach. Mercer remained silent, offering only occasional smirks and shrugs in response. The interrogation stretched on for several minutes without significant advancement until the FBI agent presented photographs of the disassembled device on the table. A subtle expression crossed Mercer's face, not fear, but something resembling pride. "You were fortunate," Mercer finally said, his voice unexpectedly gentle and clear. "If not for that dog." Benjamin noticed Lexus stiffen next to him at the mention, as if the shepherd recognized he was the subject of discussion. "How many more?" Harlow asked, leaning forward. Mercer's smile broadened a little. Sufficient. Today marked the commencement. The purification process has begun, and the impending events are unstoppable. A disturbance in the hallway captured their focus when the hazmat team leader arrived with pressing information. "We have finished the analysis of the communication devices located with the suspect," he stated. "They are burner phones, each containing only 3 numbers in the call history. Each of those 3 numbers traces back to prepaid phones bought in separate cities." Walsh suspected Dallas, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. His assessment proved accurate, the hazmat lead verified. Further details emerged. The devices incorporated synchronized timers, intended for simultaneous activation across all locations. "Your phones betrayed you, Ethan," Harlow stated, her voice steady through the interrogation room speaker. "We are currently monitoring your associates." He glanced at his watch with a studied nonchalance. "They are likely already in custody. Now, the crucial question remains: who will break their silence first?" The possibility of avoiding a lifetime in solitary confinement hinged on cooperation. For the first time, uncertainty appeared on Mercer's face. His meticulously built resistance started to falter. "Your dog ruined everything," Mercer abruptly said, glaring at the one-way glass as if he could see Benjamin through it. "Those devices were undetectable. We tested them for months. How did that animal know?" As the sun set over the O'Hare runways, Terminal 5 was declared clear of all threats. Limited operations had resumed in other areas of the airport. Thousands of passengers remained displaced, their travel plans disrupted by the day's events. Benjamin stood by a wall of windows overlooking the tarmac, watching planes slowly returning to their gates as Lexus rested at his feet, finally relaxed after the intense day. "Officer Linus," Agent Walsh approached, appearing weary but satisfied, "and thought you'd want an update before you left." Mercer provided his contacts after approximately 3 more hours of interrogation, she reported. Tactical teams apprehended 2 accomplices in Atlanta and 1 in Los Angeles, all possessing similar devices in early preparation stages. Dallas proved to be a false lead, a deliberate misdirection, potentially in response to compromised communications. "We stopped it," Benjamin confirmed, his voice conveying obvious relief. "Completely?" Walsh affirmed, looking down at Lexus with a gesture of respect. "The timing was absolutely critical. Had that first device deployed successfully, it would have provided data enabling improvements to the others. Each subsequent attack would have been more effective. Do you have any understanding yet of how he managed to detect the compound when none of our equipment could?" Walsh smiled faintly. "Our lab has a theory. The compound's chemical profile shifts slightly upon exposure to the surrounding atmosphere. This characteristic contributed to the difficulty in its detection. Standard instruments are often adjusted to recognize defined, consistent profiles. Lexus, however, operates differently. Canines don't use calibration. They interpret scent data through unique methods, identifying patterns and alterations beyond the capacity of current technology." Dr. Aris knelt down to Lexus's level, receiving a questioning head movement from the shepherd. "This particular dog appears exceptionally skilled. It's likely his early experiences contributed to his advanced detection abilities." Lieutenant Cassidy arrived, his initial doubts giving way to clear respect. "The director has scheduled a meeting for both of you tomorrow morning. A commendation is planned. The FBI is now assuming control of the investigation," Walsh stated. "However, Homeland Security remains keen on evaluating your K9's detection capabilities. With your permission, we'd like to develop a training program utilizing Lexus's responses to assist other dogs in recognizing these types of threats." As Walsh and Cassidy departed, Benjamin knelt beside Lexus, carefully taking the dog's face in his hands. The intelligent amber eyes that had first connected with him years ago at the training facility looked back with the same unwavering trust. "You did well today, partner. Really well." He stroked his hands along Lexus's sides. A final check was performed to ensure there were no signs of distress or exposure. Finding none, the lead was reattached to the tactical collar. "Let's go home." As they walked through the terminal, which was gradually reopening, Benjamin thought about how many near misses in his career had depended on split-second decisions and instinctive reactions. But today had been different. Today focused on the deep trust developed between Handler and K9 through years of collaboration, a connection that went beyond training manuals and standard procedures. What Lexus accomplished couldn't be duplicated by technology or documented in reports. It represented the peak of natural aptitude, specialized training, and something more intangible, a nearly instinctive ability that some remarkable working dogs appeared to have. Benjamin had consistently trusted his partner's skills, but today had solidified that trust into something absolute. No matter what difficulties they encountered moving forward, they would confront them as a team, their partnership strengthened by the experiences of today. The following morning would involve reviews, paperwork, and probably numerous inquiries regarding Lexus's distinctive detection abilities. For tonight, Benjamin felt satisfied, knowing that many travelers would return home safely to their families, completely unaware of how narrowly they had avoided disaster, and how a Dutch shepherd with amber eyes had stood between them in the midst of chaos. Have you ever experienced a moment when an animal perceived something that humans completely missed? Animals often possess remarkable abilities that science is still trying to understand. This story highlights how vital these instincts can be in critical situations. We are interested in hearing about your experiences with animals that appear to possess more understanding than the humans nearby. Considering you were in Officer Linus's position, would you have believed your canine partner's atypical behavior, despite technology and protocols indicating no danger? It requires significant courage to support a partner's instincts when others advise caution. Can you recall a time when you made a tough choice relying on your gut feeling instead of data? Working dogs, such as Lexus, contribute to saving many lives daily across the globe due to their remarkable skills and commitment. Do you have personal encounters with service animals or working dogs that impressed you with their intelligence and abilities? Please share your stories in the comments below. Inspired by Lexus's incredible story today? Don't miss our next video. Subscribe and enable notifications. We release another unforgettable story of heroism and dedication from the world's most extraordinary canine officers every day at the same time. Give a like if you think these four-legged heroes deserve more recognition for their life-saving work. We think you'll enjoy this video if you love dogs or are interested in canine units. Please see our previous stories, which are appearing on the screen now. And remember, behind every great police dog is a partnership built on unwavering trust and communication. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time with another amazing canine story. The service dog remains stationed outside his former handler's room, stubbornly resisting attempts by staff to relocate him. He doesn't even recognize you, one nurse observed. He's too far gone. Despite this, the dog persisted. Then, one morning, he calmly positioned himself before the veteran, and suddenly, deeply buried, traumatic memories resurfaced. What actions did the dog take, and what did the veteran ultimately recall? Please subscribe and leave a comment indicating your location. Let's begin. The VA psychiatric facility's fluorescent lights created stark shadows as Sergeant Thomas Grady gazed blankly out the window. 6 months had elapsed since his transfer from Walter Reed, but time felt insignificant within the mental fog he experienced. The sound of rain on the window reflected the scattered recollections that briefly appeared, then vanished before he could hold onto them. "Good morning, Sergeant Grady," a voice said from the entrance. Dr. Elaine Monroe stood there with his file, her demeanor carefully empathetic. "How are you feeling today?" Thomas didn't respond. "The same as yesterday, Doc." His voice held the strained quality of a man who had recently been giving commands above the sound of weapons fire. The mark along his jawline was just an outward sign of the IED's impact. The real harm was hidden beneath his skull, where memories had been broken like glass. "Your latest scans show continued physical healing," Dr. Monroe began, settling into a chair. "Spare me the medical details," Thomas interrupted. 6 months of tests, and all of you can tell me is that I should remember. But I don't. These sudden shifts from clarity to disorientation had become a defining feature of his condition. He shifted abruptly, first displaying the bearing of a soldier, then becoming agitated, seemingly overtaken by disjointed memories without explanation. "You served as a sergeant in the 5th Special Forces. 3 tours in Afghanistan, injured 6 months ago in Kandahar," she pointed out, reiterating their established routine. "So you keep telling me," Thomas responded, a hint of frustration in his voice. "But it's just words. I don't feel it." The medical personnel approached Thomas with care. 3 orderlies had been injured during his previous episodes. His physical strength had returned more quickly than his mental stability, making him a potential hazard when combat memories elicited reactions without a clear connection. Dr. Monroe had accepted his case after 2 prior psychiatrists requested transfers. While others perceived a liability, she identified a distressed veteran caught between recollections and a loss of awareness. "Today, we are going to attempt a different approach," she stated. Thomas laughed, a sound laced with cynicism. "Another quick fix?" Dr. Monroe responded, "Not at all. An unforeseen package has arrived for you. It seems to be from the past." A disturbance in the East Corridor caused people to notice as a uniformed officer guided a Belgian Malinois through security. The dog's ears stood up suddenly, its eyes fixed on Thomas from 30 yards away. Before the handler could respond, the Malinois pulled forward, drawing the officer a few steps. "Heel," the handler ordered firmly. Something about the command heel made Thomas feel a strange tremor, although he couldn't remember why. As staff gathered around the visitors, he withdrew to his room. Shortly after, Dr. Monroe arrived at his door, carrying a file. "Sergeant Grady," she said, "there's someone who might be of interest to you. A military working dog named Valor. These documents indicate he served as your canine partner for 14 months in Afghanistan." Thomas looked without expression. "I have no recollection of a dog." Dr. Monroe acknowledged, "That's understandable considering your current state, but Valor's handler has records confirming he was your assigned partner during your final deployment." "My partner?" Thomas repeated, the words feeling unfamiliar. "That's impossible. I would remember that. Would you?" Dr. Monroe asked softly. "You don't remember your squad mates or commanding officer?" Before Thomas could answer, a disturbance arose in the hallway. The Malinois had broken free and raced to Thomas's door, ears forward, body vibrating with energy. "Get that thing out of here," Thomas shouted, stepping back. Something about the dog's intense focus made him uneasy. The handler appeared shortly after, offering an apology as he reattached the leash. "I'm sorry, sir. He's never acted like this. Valor is typically very well behaved." "I don't know this animal," Thomas retorted, "and I don't want it close." The dog emitted a low whine, a sound unexpectedly unsettling, given its earlier assertive behavior. His gaze remained fixed on Thomas. "This wasn't part of my agreement," Dr. Monroe clarified. "Your previous superior officer arranged this. He thought that seeing Valor could potentially stimulate memory recall." Thomas looked at the dog, experiencing only annoyance. "It isn't working. Please remove him." As the handler began to take Valor away, the dog hesitated, firmly positioning his paws at the doorway. The resistance wasn't hostile, but resolute. "I will permit Valor to stay for a short time," Dr. Monroe stated. "Not in your room, but in the shared spaces." Thomas turned away, showing indifference. "Do as you please. You always do." As they led Valor away, the dog turned, his gaze lingering on Thomas. A soft whine, laced with a palpable sense of recognition and sorrow, escaped his lips. In the days that followed, staff noticed a peculiar pattern in Valor's behavior. The Malinois consistently positioned himself along Thomas's path, seemingly waiting. During physical therapy, Valor would appear in the hallway, pressed against the glass, his eyes fixed on Thomas. While Thomas was eating in the common area, the dog would position himself exactly 12 feet away, near enough to watch, but at a distance that caused Thomas discomfort. "He's acting like he's conducting surveillance," commented Jim, an orderly with a background in the Marines. "That's a tactical placement." On the 4th night, security cameras recorded Valor entering the supply closet where Thomas kept his personal belongings. The dog removed his combat boots and brought them to his door, setting them carefully at the threshold. Thomas found the boots the following morning. Instead of his typical anger regarding unwanted entries, he paused, observing them before storing them in his closet, a change from how he had handled previous items. The subsequent night, Valor brought forward another item, a set of dog tags. These two were positioned at Thomas's door with thoughtful placement. During therapy sessions, Valor remained outside Dr. Monroe's office. During challenging periods when Thomas's frustration grew close to violence, the dog would scratch at the door until someone opened it, then position himself between Thomas and the doctor, not aggressively but protectively. He's not threatening, Dr. Monroe observed. He's intervening, attempting to calm Thomas. Particularly insightful were unguarded moments. Surveillance footage showed Thomas watching Valor from his window. Personnel observed him possessing the dog tags Valor had provided, a personal link he was unwilling to admit. By the second week, the equilibrium between Thomas's opposition and Valor's continued efforts started to weaken. The critical moment occurred during a group therapy session Thomas had hesitantly participated in. 5 veterans were sharing experiences about their returns from war. When another veteran recounted losing his closest friend, it sparked a sudden, intense flashback in Thomas. "Get down!" Thomas yelled, tackling the Vietnam-era veteran across from him. "Sniper on the ridge. Get down or you're dead." Chaos erupted as Thomas, lost in a combat scenario, dragged the terrified man toward perceived cover. Staff attempted restraint, but Thomas's combat training made him formidable, even confused. Somehow, Valor pushed his way through 2 doors and rushed into the room. Instead of attacking, he positioned himself between Thomas and the staff. The dog leaned against Thomas's legs, then made a circle around him before settling directly in front of him, its eyes fixed on his face. The impact was instant. Thomas stilled, his anger giving way to bewilderment. Then, a sudden realization as he dropped to his knees. What is going on?" he whispered, looking around as if he were seeing the room for the very first time. The link was short-lived. As personnel attended to his victim, Thomas's confusion shifted to fury. Not directed at the veteran, but at Valor. "What in the world is this, huh?" he shouted, scrambling backward. Was this some kind of trick? Using animals to manipulate him? The incident led to an emergency staff meeting. Thomas had barricaded himself in his room, refusing meals and medication. "This dog is triggering severe reactions," the facility director argued. "We have other patients to consider." After debate, a compromise was reached. Valor would have 48 hours before being returned to the military program. The following morning, Thomas was in the garden, experiencing disjointed memories. He didn't realize Valor was near until the dog positioned itself directly in front of him. "Go away," Thomas snapped. "I asked them to keep you away." Valor remained still, amber eyes focused intently on Thomas's face. Thomas stood up quickly. "I said go back. I don't recognize you." He began to walk away, but lost his balance as another memory surfaced. The village again. This time, a chemical smell was present beneath the dust. The sudden dizziness caused him to drop to one knee. When his sight returned, Valor was still present, resolute. "What do you want?" Thomas asked, his voice trembling. He pushed the dog with both hands. Valor endured the force, remaining unmoved. A quiet whine escaped, not of suffering, but of resolve. "Get away," Thomas yelled, retreating rapidly. "I don't know you. I don't remember you." His back struck the garden wall. Thomas slumped down, drawing his knees to his chest protectively. The weight of his circumstances overwhelmed him. A man without memory, his identity solely defined by the accounts of others. He existed between fleeting recollections and a vacant present. "Just leave me alone," he murmured. The expected respite didn't arrive. Instead, Valor approached with measured composure. The Malinois made a single rotation, then settled with a controlled, ritualistic gesture. He extended himself before Thomas, resting his head directly on the toe of his boot in a defined posture, chin lowered, ears pricked, eyes positioned to meet Thomas's gaze when lifted. Thomas remained perfectly still. The particular angle of Valor's head, the weight on his boot, triggered a surge of recognition. The garden seemed to waver, superimposed with a different image. Dusty terrain, tactical equipment, night vision, and this very same pressure against his boot. "Wait, the stance." Thomas spoke, the words coming naturally. "Hold position." Valor's ears moved forward at the instruction, becoming even more still. Thomas looked at the dog, his heart pounding as pieces began to fit together. I know this. I know you. The orderly radioed softly for Dr. Monroe, understanding something important was occurring. With shaking fingers, Thomas reached out, pausing just above Valor's head. Upon making contact, Valor emitted a sound of such palpable relief, it was almost like a human expression. We trained together, Thomas stated, and memories began to coalesce for the first time since his injury. North Carolina, you were just a year old. You failed the standard program because you wouldn't leave my side during separation tests. Each word contributed to a clearer picture. Thomas gently scratched behind Valor's ear, precisely where the dog enjoyed it. A movement his body recalled instinctively. You slept at the foot of my bunk, Thomas said, his voice softening, radiating certainty and familiarity. Against regulations. Sanders protected us because you consistently reported his concealed whiskey supply. Dr. Monroe observed from the garden entrance, directing staff to maintain a distance. Thomas's fingers located a notch in Valor's left ear, a mended split almost imperceptible beneath the fur. A sniper round came too close in Cunard Province. Should have heeded the alert sooner. Valor pressed his head more firmly against Thomas's hand, reinforcing the connection. I used to tell the guys you were smarter than half the lieutenants. Thomas's fingers traced along Valor's neck, finding an old scar beneath the fur. You took shrapnel intended for me outside Kandahar. Dr. Monroe approached cautiously. Thomas, you're remembering. He looked up, his eyes clearer than she had ever seen. Not everything, just him. Valor. The name felt correct now. We worked together. He was my responsibility and I was his. Your commanding officer believed your connection might break through the amnesia, Dr. Monroe explained. Memory is complex. Sometimes emotional connections access pathways logical thinking cannot reach. Thomas nodded, his hand never leaving Valor's fur. The details of the incident, the cause of the injury, and the reason for the separation remain unclear. However, this represents a significant improvement, Thomas stated gently, observing Valor's unwavering gaze. He never forgot, Thomas said softly, meeting Valor's steady gaze. Even when I did. Valor adjusted their posture, rising to sit upright next to Thomas instead of facing him, transitioning from a defensive stance to the collaborative positioning they had consistently used throughout numerous missions. Thomas refined his posture, his hand resting on Valor's back with comfortable familiarity. I need to recall more, he stated, his voice filled with renewed resolve. I must understand what transpired with us. In the days that followed, Thomas and Valor remained constantly together. Each hour yielded fresh recollections, as the dog's presence seemed to release long-blocked memories. We were deployed together 3 times, Thomas recounted to Dr. Monroe during a therapy session. The first deployment was a standard patrol and explosive detection mission. The second time, their duties changed to direct action assignments, a result of their effective teamwork. Village clearance operations were a primary focus. Valor was capable of detecting not only explosives but also concealed individuals and weapon storage areas. He had a distinct method of signaling for various dangers. 1 ear twitch indicated explosives, 2 signaled hidden personnel. He saved our unit on numerous occasions. Dr. Monroe observed that Thomas's speech patterns had changed. He displayed increased confidence, utilizing military terminology precisely, and a soldier's rhythm returning to his voice. Thomas acknowledged. Having him here connects me to who I was. I still have gaps. Significant recollections emerged, prompted by specific cues. The framework provided context. Certain actions by Valor triggered related memories. For example, when the dog pressed his nose against Thomas's knee, Thomas remembered their established communication system. When Valor brought a tennis ball, Thomas recalled playing fetch behind their barracks after missions. Michaels, Thomas stated abruptly during a walk through the facility, Specialist Kevin Michaels, our unit's communication expert. I consistently kept butterscotch candies for Valor, even though I cautioned him against giving my dog sweets. By evening, Thomas began constructing a timeline, recording names and events upon our return. He included Jenkins, Rodriguez, and Patel. Captain Ellis led our unit. Lieutenant Cooper served as our immediate commanding officer. He was a good man, willing to listen when others might have asserted authority. When reflecting on a mission where a team member was lost, Thomas appeared visibly upset. Valor rested his head on Thomas's knee, a gesture that steadied him and kept the memory from escalating into a full-blown flashback. The last mission, Thomas began, his voice low. A mountain village close to the Pakistan border. A high-value target was using it as a waypoint. He struggled to break through the mental wall he's built to protect himself from reliving those events. I recall the approach, the village's layout. The teams splitting up. Valor and I secured the eastern buildings. Valor's ears perked up, his body stiffening as if recalling the same event. There was an ambush, Thomas recounted. It wasn't arbitrary, they were anticipating our arrival. The coordination was exceptional. Someone had compromised our operation. His breathing accelerated. Gunfire erupted from numerous locations. Radio communications were disrupted. Men were injured. We were trapped in a courtyard enclosed by buildings. Thomas's hand gripped Valor's fur.
Valor signal.
Not concerning enemy fire, we knew their locations. Something different. He continued attempting to obstruct my way, issuing the explosive signal, but he denied it with a headshake. That's where the memory breaks apart once more. I recall his warning. Then, only noise, pressure, and darkness. That's sufficient for today, Dr. Monroe stated kindly. You've achieved significant advancement. The key moment occurred when a delivery truck backfired in the parking lot. The sound reverberated through the recreation room where Thomas was playing chess. He crouched, pulling the other veteran down, scanning for threats. "ID!" he shouted, completely consumed by memory. This time, the memory played out with perfect clarity. We had cleared 2 buildings, Thomas explained later. Valor pressed against his side. Michaels and Cooper were pinned down. Ellis was coordinating extraction. Valor and I were moving to provide support when heavy fire erupted. His hand instinctively went to a scar on his arm. We reached the stone wall, and that's when the situation changed. Thomas explained that Valor's behavior altered, moving from measured alerts to frantic efforts to prevent our progress. He repeatedly issued the explosive warning, but I wasn't detecting the expected triggers. There was no disturbed earth, no visible wires. His voice tightened. I initially believed he was disoriented by the gunfire. I instructed him to advance twice, and twice he declined, a behavior he had never exhibited before. Valor emitted a soft whine, seemingly recalling the event. Rodriguez was in distress, requesting assistance. I issued the instruction, authorizing movement, disregarding Valor's caution. Thomas momentarily closed his eyes. I directed him to provide healing, employing the command that bypasses his safety protocols. During the process, Valor violated procedure entirely. He attacked me, clamping onto my tactical vest, attempting to pull me back. I felt a surge of anger, believing his training had failed. I instructed him to release his grip and resume his task. Thomas's voice lowered. He complied with that final instruction. However, his posture indicated a problem. His ears were flattened, his tail tucked, and he moved as if he were being forced toward execution. 10 meters from Rodriguez, Valor abruptly surged forward, emitting his most urgent bark. That's when I noticed it. Almost invisible wires connected to a pressure plate located beneath Rodriguez. The IED wasn't intended for a single soldier, but for any responding team. Rodriguez had activated the initial sensor, but his weight was insufficient. Any additional weight would trigger the explosion. Valor had known all along. He moved forward, attempting to disarm the trigger, because I wasn't paying attention. I finally grasped the situation and began calling for assistance. I had just activated my radio when the explosion resulted in Rodriguez's immediate death, critically wounded Thomas, and physically distanced him from Valor. My final recollection prior to Walter Reed was Valor standing watch over me, suffering from shrapnel wounds, securing the area while I was unable to move. Thomas looked at the dog, his expression filled with years of emotion. I failed him. He provided every warning, and I disregarded them. You didn't fail him, Dr. Monroe said gently. You made a judgment call that they're trying to save your teammate, and Valor never gave up on you. That's why I couldn't remember, Thomas realized. My last thought was that I'd killed Rodriguez and endangered everyone by ignoring Valor. The mind protects us from what we can't process, Dr. Monroe explained. Thomas nodded, hand resting on Valor's back. I'm ready now. The following weeks brought a remarkable transformation. Thomas's memories resurfaced in a controlled manner as a significant obstacle dissolved. While Thomas regained his strength, Valor started briefly engaging with other struggling veterans, placing himself close to them before returning to Thomas. He has always possessed the ability to perceive when someone is in distress, Thomas noted. This quality distinguished him, allowing him to understand people better than they understood themselves. The morning of Thomas's discharge dawned with autumn sunlight streaming through golden leaves. His belongings were carefully packed: clothes, medications, a journal, and letters from former unit members. Valor observed the packing, remaining alert but composed. His military vest had been returned, accompanied by retirement documents should Thomas choose that option. Dr. Monroe knocked on the door, asking, "Everything ready?" Thomas nodded, securing his duffel bag. "As ready as I'll ever be." "Your sister has confirmed she will meet you?" "Yes, it still feels strange. Reconnecting with family I barely knew months ago." "Have you decided about Valor?" Thomas's expression became thoughtful. "I'd like to discuss this one last time," he said. They walked to the garden, the site of their breakthrough, with Valor accompanying them. "I've observed how Valor interacts with other veterans," Thomas began. "It's not solely with me that he finds connection. It's with anyone experiencing the darkness I once knew," Dr. Monroe affirmed. "His support for patients in crisis has been extraordinary." "That's what distinguished him in combat," Thomas clarified. "Typically, military dogs are trained to identify particular dangers. Valor consistently recognized when something was amiss even before we possessed confirming data. He perceived changes in human actions that even seasoned soldiers failed to notice." Thomas stroked Valor's back. "I always believed our bond distinguished him," he said. "Now I realize it's inherent to him, this capacity to perceive distress." Dr. Monroe observed, "You're contemplating leaving him here?" Thomas affirmed, "A part of me wants to bring him back with me. He's more than just a dog. He was the one who found me when I was lost." Valor leaned against Thomas's leg, seemingly to show understanding. "However, I often think about others, still trapped where I once was. Veterans with no means of return." Thomas's voice grew strained. "Valor discovered a route when others could not. How many others might he be able to assist?" "We've considered developing a therapy program based on your experience," Dr. Monroe stated. "He won't simply be involved in it," Thomas emphasized. "He would be central to it, a guide for healing through bonds we don't completely understand." Ultimately, Thomas knelt before Valor, looking him directly in the face. "You have consistently understood your purpose better than anyone," he said gently, holding the dog's face with his hands. "In Afghanistan, in this place, you have never forgotten what is important." Valor's focus was complete, his attention unwavering. "My time of service is over," Thomas continued steadily. "But yours is just beginning. Others need you now as I needed you. Those who are lost and uncertain of their return." Thomas touched his forehead to Valor's. "You will guide them as you guided me, and once that task is done, I will be waiting." Thomas rose, regaining composure with military precision. "Dr. Monroe will care for you. I will visit. This isn't farewell. The simply new assignments." He squared his shoulders. "Valor, remain," he requested softly. A flicker of conflict briefly appeared in the dog's posture, a clash between instinct and years of training related to warring. Then Valor composed himself into a flawless sit, holding steady eye contact. Thomas acknowledged him with a single nod, a gesture of respect between peers, not master and dog. He then turned and departed, each stride demanding significant control. He made no backward glances. "I'm out." Valor remained in a seated, attentive position, observing his partner's departure. Only after Thomas disappeared did the dog turn to Dr. Monroe, a silent understanding passing between them. While one mission had ended, another was beginning. Have you ever witnessed the extraordinary bond between a service animal and their human partner? The way they seem to communicate without words, understanding needs that go beyond basic commands. Valor and Thomas's story serves as a reminder that healing can originate from unforeseen places, and that profound bonds can endure even amidst memory loss. Considering Thomas's circumstances, one must wonder, would you possess the fortitude to part with a devoted companion, understanding their potential to guide others out of hardship, mirroring the support they offered you? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more extraordinary tales of service dogs and the lives they transform. Click the notification bell so you never miss our new uploads. Share this video with friends and family who appreciate the remarkable bond between humans and their canine companions. Be sure to check out our other canine hero stories now on screen, including the incredible story of a search and rescue dog who found a lost child during the worst blizzard in decades. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, with another brand new video.